Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Welcome to Congregation Shomrei Emunah. Thank you for abiding by the rules of the house as we continue to be solicitous of everyone's health and well-being. So only those people who are here at this table leading services will be unmasked. Everyone else is supposed to be masked, and I thank you so much for abiding by that. We're going to begin with our morning prayers, page 65 in the blue prayer books, and red Bibles are found in the gallery space outside, so you're welcome to take those books to use. Page 65, please rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasechvi bina lehavdil bein yom ve'layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam roka haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa li kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten laya'ef koach. Take our seats. Baruch atah Adonai. כל יום לכן ולחסד ורחמים בעיניך בני כל רואינו ותגמלנו חסדים טובים. ברוך אתה אדוני גומל חסדים טובים לעמו ישראל. 66. אשרינו מה טוב חלקנו, מה נעים גורלנו, מה יפה ירושתנו, אשרינו שאנחנו משכימים ומעריבים ערב הבוקר, ואומרים פעמיים בכל יום, שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. 67. קדש את שמך מקדישי שמך, וקדש את שמך בעולמך ובשבותך, תרים את הגיע קרננו, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש את שמך ברבים. We turn to page 68, the last paragraph on the page, a few words of our oral Torah, Torah Shabbat Peh, wisdom handed down from one generation to the next. Our rabbis taught, you can join with me please, deeds of loving kindness are superior to charity in three respects. Charity can be accomplished only with money. Deeds of loving kindness can be accomplished through personal involvement as well as with money. Charity can be given only to the poor. Deeds of loving kindness can be done for both rich and poor. Charity applies only to the living. Deeds of loving kindness apply to both the living and the dead. Bottom of page 70. אוהב שלום ורודף שלום, אוהב את הבריות וקורבן לתורה. Kaddish Rabbanan, page 71. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ילמד יברח יוצא, ימליך מלכותי, היכול וימיכול, וחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב יבנו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעמל מיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא יתהדר, יתעלה, יתהלל, שמי וקודשה בריחו. תהילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. על ישראל ועל רבנן ועל תלמידיהם, ועל כל תלמידי תלמידיהם, ועל כל מן ויסכים באורייתא, לי ויתרהדן, ולי וכל אתר ויתר. יהי להון ולכון, שלום הרבה, חינה וחיסתא ורחמים. חיין אריכין ומזונו רביחה ופרוקנה בין קדם אבוהון דבישמיא, ואמרו אמן. היי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא ברחמיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. Turn now to page 81, Psalm 30. Ms. Moshe Chanuk, you can take our seats. הפכת מספדי למחול לי, פיתחת שקי, ואל תעזרני שמחה, ואני אזמר בכבוד, ולא ידום, אדוני אלוהי לעולם עובדיך. Mourner's Kaddish, page 82. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ילמד יברח ילותי, ימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וימיכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ומעלה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתפלל ויתהלל, שמי וקודשה בריחו. יעלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. We remain standing, page 83, the beginning of our verses of Psalm. ברוך שאמר והיה העולם, ברוך הוא. ברוך עושה בראשית, ברוך אומר ועושה. ברוך גוזר ומקיים, ברוך מרחם על הארץ, ברוך מרחם על הבריות. ברוך משלם שכר טוב לרעיו, ברוך חי לעד וקיים לנצח, ברוך רופא ומציל. ברוך שמו, ברוך שמו, ברוך שמו, ברוך שמו, ברוך שמו, ברוך שמו, ברוך שמו. Malkeinu Eloheinu Yachid Chai Ha'olamim Melech Mishubach Umefa'or Adei Shemo Hagadol Baruch Atah Adonai Melech Me'ulal V'Tishbachot. Take our seats. Middle of page 86. Oshia et Amecha Arei Nachlatecha Urei Murei 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 Benasei Benasei Al HaOlam Hoshia et Amecha Uvarech et Nachlatecha Urei Murei 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 Benasei Al HaOlam. אני בחסדך בטחתי, יגל ליבי בישועתך, שירה לאדוני, כי גמל עלי. Turn to page 94. היום יום שבת קודש, שבו היו הלווים אומרים בבית המקדש. Today is the holy day of Shabbat, and on this day in the temple of old, the Levites would sing this song, a psalm for the day of Shabbat. שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות אדוני ולזמר שמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. צדיק התמר יפרח, בארץ מלבנון יזכה שתולים, בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו ברעננים יהיו להגיד, כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עוולתה בו. Page 95. עדותיך נאמנו מיוד ביתך נאוות קודש, אדוני לאורך ימים. Page 96. אשרי יושבי ביתך עוד יהללוך הסלע, אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו. תהילה לדוד ארומי ממך אלוהי המלך, ואמרך שמך לעולם ועד, בכל יום אברכך ואהלל שמך לעולם ועד. גדול אדוני ומעולה מאוד, ולי גדולתו ואין חקר. דור לדור ישבח מעשיך וגבורותיך יגידו, דרכבות הודך ודברי נפלאותיך אשיחה. וזוז נורותיך יאמרו וגדולתך אספרנה זכר רב טובך יביעו וצדקתך ירננו. חנון ורחום אדוני ערך אפיים וגדול חסד טוב אדוני לכל ורחמיו לכל למעשיו. יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך וחסידיך יברכוך כבוד מלכותך יאמרו גבורתך ידברו. להודיע לבני האדם גבורותיו וכבוד הדר מלכותו. מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים וזוקף לכל הכפופים. עיני כל אליך יסברו ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתון. פותח את ידיך ומשביע לכל חי רצון. צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו וחסיד בכל מעשיו. קרוב אדוני לכל קורב לכל אשר יקראו באמת. רצון יראיו יעשה ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם. שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו וכל הרשעים ישמיע תהילת אדוני. ידבר פיו יברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך ימי עתה ויד עולם מעתה ויד עולם. Hallelujah. We turn to page 100, bottom half of the page, Psalm 150. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, El Bekocho. Hallelujah, Birki Abuzo. Hallelujah, Big Burotav. Hallelujah, Kiro Gudlo. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 beteka shofar, hallelujah, benevel bechinor, hallelujah, betov umachol, hallelujah, beminim beugav, hallelujah, 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 v'tziltzilei shama, hallelujah, v'tziltzilei truah, kol hanshama tehalel yam, hallelujah, kol hanshama tehalel yam. We continue page 104. נשמת כל חי תברך את שמך אדוני אלוהינו.
ונשבחך ונפארך ונברך את שם קודשך כאמור. ודוד ברכי נפשי את אדוני וכל קרבי את שם קודשו. האב את העצומות עוזך, הגדול בכבוד שמך, הגיבור לנצח והנורא בנורותיך, המלך היושב על כיסא רם ונישא.
We're at the middle of page 105 and bridging from the end of our section called Psukei de Zimra, verses of song, and entering into the main morning service Shacharit, and it will be led for us by Sarah Farbiarch. One of the wonderful things of having a community, when the community works well, is that everybody in the community works together and helps each other out. So it's wonderful to have Sarah leading this part of the service, who is also, if the boys afterwards make any mistakes, it's her fault. So just kidding. Who has shepherded Shai and Jonah through their preparations, and it's great to have, like I said, in-house one generation, right, helping the next generation. Shkoach. Shochen
ad marom v'kadosh shemo. Befi yesharim tithalal, u'divrei tzadikim titbarach, u'bilshon chasidim titromam, u'bekerev kedoshim titkadash, u'b'machalot rinevot al beit Yisrael. Shechen chovad kol yitzurim lefanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu, lehodot lehalel leshabach, lefa'er leromem lehader, levarach lelel lekales, al kol divrei shirot v'tishbachot, David ben Yishai, Abdecha Meshichecha.
106, we rise.
Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu. Brachot vehodaot me'ata ve'ad olam, Baruch atah Adonai, El Melchado batishbachot, El hahodaot, Adon haniflaot, Habocher b'shirei zimra, Melech olchei ha'olamim. Yitkadav yitkadash shemei Rabbi, Ve'alma divrei pirtei ve'amlich malchutei, B'chaychon u'v'mechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, V'agalav yizman kariv yimru amen. Beit Rabbi v'barach le'olam v'lo me'omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudashah b'rihu. Le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tishbechata v'nechmata damiran v'alma v'yimiru. Amen.
107.
Baruch et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai barach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uborei choshech, oseh shalom uborei hakol. Ein kerkech Adonai Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh, ve'ein zulech malkeinu l'chayei ha'olam haba. Efes biltecha bo'aleinu limot ha'mashiach, ve'ein doma lecha moshienu l'tchiyat ha'metim. El Adon al kol ha'masim baruch u'borach, v'fi kol neshama gadlo v'tuvo malei. Amidah
הקודש ונדע בכבוד על המרכבה זכות ומישור לפני כיסו חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו יצרם ודעת ובינה והשכל כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל מלאי זיו וגבירים כבנוגה נאה זיוה בכל העולם שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם עושים בהם הרצון קונם בערב כבוד נותנים לשמו סלה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרח אורה והקריא צורת הלבנה שבח נודימו כל צבא מרום תפארת וגדולה שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש 109
Barach Tzurenu Malkeinu V'Go'aleinu Borek Kedoshim.
Page 110.
Kulam Ahuvim, Kulam Berurim, Kulam Giborim, V'Kulam Osim Be'ema U'Be'ira Ratzon Konam, V'Kulam Pochim Et Bihem, B'Kdu Shabbat Hara V'Shira V'Zimra, U'Mevarchim U'Meshapchim U'Mefarim, U'Maritim U'Makdishim U'Mamlichim, Et Shem Ha'el Melech HaGadol. V'Kulam Mekavlim Aleihem, Ol Malchut Shamayim Zeh Mizeh, V'Notnim Reshut Zel Hazeh, L'Akdish Le'Tzram B'Nachad Ruach, V'Safad V'Rura V'Nima Kedosha, Kulam Kechadonim V'Orim V'Yira, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, V'Lo Kol Haaretz Kevodo, V'Afanim V'Chayot HaKodesh, V'Rash Gadol Minasim L'umat Serafim, L'umatam V'Shapchim V'Omrim, Baruch Kevod Adonai B'Yimkomo. Kamur le'oserim gedolim ki le'olam chasdo or chadash al Zion ta'ir or chadash al Zion ta'ir v'nitzeh kulanu mehera le'oro Baruch atah Adonai yotzer ha'meorot.
Page 111.
Ahava Rabba Tanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Magedol Avitera Chamal Taleinu Avinu Malkeinu Ba'avur Avoteinu Shebachnu Becha Avinu Malkeinu Vateram Nefut Bechayim Etechonenu Shvateinu Avinu HaKarachaman Hamrachem Rachem Aleinu Vetenu Libeinu Lehavin Lehavinu Lehaskir Lishmoa Lilmod Ulelamed Lishmor Velasot Ulekayem Et Kol Divrei Talmud Torah Techaviava V'ha'erinenu B'Toratecha V'dabek Libeinu B'Mitzvotecha V'yached Levaveinu Le'ahava Achas Adonai, Habocher B'Amo Yisrael Be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai V'ahavta Adonai Elohecha B'chol levavecha B'chol nafshecha B'chol nefshecha V'hayu ha'dvarim ha'eleh Asher anokhi mitzvacha Hayom alecha V'shnatam lecha V'yivatam V'shitecha v'techa U'letecha v'derech U'shotmecha u'tmecha U'shartam me'otakecha V'yitotafot b'necha U'kratam Al-Zoletecha U'yisharecha. Adonai Elohecha Amen.
יציב ונכון וחנון וישר ונאמן ואהוב וחביב ונחמד אמין ונורא ואדיר מעשה טוב ויפה.
דור ודור קיים ושמו קיים, וחיסון נכון ומלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיימת.
Or the bottom of 113.
אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו, גואלנו גואל אבותינו, יוצרנו צור ישועתנו, כבודנו מטילנו מעולם שמך, אין אלוהים זולתך, עזרת אבותינו אתה הוא מעולם.
114.
Tilo l'elyon baruch hu borach, Moshe b'nei Yisrael l'chanu shira, besimcha rabba ve'amru kulam.
We're at the bottom of page 114. We're about to conclude the blessing Ga'al Yisrael, and that blessing leads us into our standing silent prayer, the Amidah. The words written in the Siddur begin on page 115 and conclude with the prayer for peace on page 120. We stand in silence. Each and every one of us offers our prayers as only we can. No one else should be hearing what we're saying to our Creator. When we're finished with our own personal prayer, please, we take our seats. If somebody else is still praying, we want to keep the silence going, so that everybody will benefit from that quiet, sacred space for them to concentrate. When everyone has taken their seat, That's when we'll be able to continue with the rest of our service. Bottom of page 114.
Mi kamocha le'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Norah tehilot osei feleh. Shira chadasha shibechu gelulim. L'shimcha sefas hayam. Yachad kulam hodu. Ve'ilichu ve'amru. Adonai yimloch le'olam. Sur Yisrael, u'malezat Yisrael, u'te'unah yedar Yisrael, go'aleinu Adonai tzavot shemo, Kadosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Kal Yisrael.
Just as we've offered our prayers individually, we've constituted a community together, and the community has a prayer to offer to God as well. I ask you to rise, page 115b.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot, Umevii Goel Lifnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Hoser Poked U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham U'Poked Sarah, Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayim Eitim Atzarav Lo'Shia, Mashib HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem, Mechaper Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayim Eitim B'Rachamim Rabim, Somet Notrim B'Rofet Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayim Emunato, B'Shenei Achar, Michamocha B'Geburot, U'Midom Elah, Melech Benit U'Mechayim, U'Matzliach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman Atah L'Chayot Meitim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaMeitim, Nekadesh et Shimcha b'olam, Keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom, כך כתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה על זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך הארץ כבודו. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול. אז בקול רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול. מנסים לעומת סרפים, מנסים לעומת סרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו,
ברוך יבוא אדוני
ממקום חמקנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרוב, בקרוב בימינו, בקרוב, בקרוב בימינו, לעולם ותשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, ונצח נצחים. ועינינו תיראנה, תיראנה ממלכתך, הדבר האמור בשירנו לך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם נעלי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה.
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור, לדור ודור נעלים קול לך.
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור, לדור ודור נעלים קול לך. ולנצח נצחים כדי ששון נגיד, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, יגדלך,
כי
המלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה. כי המלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה.
ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Take our seats. Page 117.
ישמח משה במענך חלקו, כי אבן נאמן קראת לו. כליל תפארת בראשו נתת, ועמדו לפניך על הר סיני, ושני לוחות אבנים הוריד בידו, וכתוב בהם שמירת שבת, וכן כתוב בתורתך, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוז היא לעולם, כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ולא נתתו אדוני אלוהינו לגויי הארצות, ולא הנחלתו מלכנו לעובדי פסילים. וגם במנוחתו לא יזכנו ערלים, כי לישראל עמך נתתו באהבה, לזרע יעקב אשר בם בחרת. עמק קדשי שביעי, כולם יספו ויתענגו מטובך, והשביעי רצית בו וקידשו. חמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכר למעשה בראשית. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, רצה במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. סבנו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת, והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו, באהבה וברצון, שבת קודשך, וינוחו בישראל, מקדש שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
118.
רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל בתפילתם, ושבת עבודה לדביר ביתך, ותפילתם באהבה תקבל ברצון, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך. ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון ברחמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, המחזיר שכינתו לציון, מודים אנחנו לה. הטוב כי לא חלו רחמך, ברמרחם כי לא תמו חסדיך, מעולם קיווינו לך, ועל כולם יתברך ויתרומם שמך מלכנו תמיד, לעולם ועד, וכל החיים יודו סלע, והללו את שמך באמת, האל ישועתנו ועזרתנו סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך ולך נאה להודות. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, ברכנו בברכה המשולשת בתורה, הכתובה על ידי משה עבדך, האמורה מפי אהרון ובניו כהנים, עם קדושך כאמור. יברך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
120.
שים שלום, שים שלום טובה וברכה על shalom. Sim shalom tova ubracha ba'olam. Sim shalom tova ubracha. Ki ve'or panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu. Torah chayim ve'ahavat chesed u'tzedaka u'racha v'rachan v'chayim ve'shalom. Sim shalom. Sim shalom tova u'racha ba'olam. Sim shalom tova u'racha. V'tov beinecha levarech et amecha amcha Yisrael. V'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Sim shalom. Sim shalom tova u'bracha ba'olam. Sim shalom tova u'bracha. Baruch atah Adonai hamevarech et amo Yisrael v'shalom.
Full Kaddish, page 138.
Gadol v'kadash Shomrei Rabbi. Yom ha'divrach yirtzeh v'yom nishmachuteh v'chaychon v'yimachon v'chayed yechol v'Yisrael v'agala u'yizman kari v'yimru. Amen. Yishnei Rabba b'Torah Le'olam alom me'omaya Yivara Yibarach v'yishkabach v'pa'ar v'yirubah v'yinaseh v'yirhadar v'yatalav v'yatalal shemit v'yishab Le'olam mikol v'chata v'shirata tishv'chata v'nechamata Gamra b'yama v'yimru. Amen. Tikabon selotonu v'aton v'chol Yisrael Kadanu v'hodi v'shmaya v'yimru. Amen. Yehev shlanu rabba v'shmaya v'chaim alinu v'akol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Osah shalom v'yirba v'yaseh shalom alinu v'akol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen.
Torah Service, page 139. Those who are honored with carrying the Torahs, please come forward.
En k'mocha b'Elohim Adonai v'k'maasecha Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai, Gadol Shema. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai, Gadol Shema.
May be seated. Shabbat Shalom again. Welcome to everyone. We're about to begin reading from our first Torah scroll. This is a special Shabbat in many ways, of course. And the first element that we need to pay attention to is we're beginning a new book of the Torah. The Torah has 5 books, and we are beginning the 3rd book of the Torah, Vayikra in Hebrew and Leviticus as it's called in English. The 3rd book means it's the central book of the Torah. And we talked about that in our studies. This is a book that is challenging in certain ways. There's a lot of commentary in our Chumashim, in our Bible books. So if you look, for instance, here we're going to begin at 585. And here's an introductory essay. And then here's the first page of our Torah reading. And we have one phrase at the top of the page, and the rest is explanations and trigger warnings and all kinds of things that are tried to be conveyed to you. So follow along as you can. And we'll see afterwards when our two B'nai Mitzvah will be able to speak, and they'll just tie it all together and it'll be clear as anything. It'll be great, believe me. I had a peek, it's going to be terrific. Okay, page 585. Those who are honored with being called to the Torah for having an aliyah are invited, if you wish, to stand here. Blessings are here, and you can be socially distanced, but at the same time be here, and those who are streaming and watching from outside of our sanctuary will be able to see you as part of the service as well. If you don't want to do that and you want to stay in your place, then you'll be called. You say your Hebrew name. If you have it, say your name. And then it won't be repeated. We'll just say you're the person who's being called for that aliyah, for that honor of being called to the Torah. And then you recite the blessings for the aliyah before, and then when the reading is finished, after. Page 585.
Azov Yagem Yoshir Lefol Chachosim Bo Namar Amen. Ochavod Goder Lelahenu Luchavod Lakara Kohen Karav Nala'amod La'aliyah Aleph Baruch Shanatan Torah Li'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato
V'yatem avikim Adonai Chayim Kol Hayom.
Baruch Hu Es Adonai Hamborach Baruch Adonai Hamborach Li'olam Voed Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'notan Lanu Es Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah Amen.
Amen. Vayikra el Moshe Vayidaber Adonai Elav Ne'el HaMoed Lemor Daber el Bnei Yisrael v'marta alehem Adam Yakriv mikem korban Adonai min habema min habakar min hatzon takrivu et korbanchem imola korbanu min habakar zachar tamim yakrivenu el petach el moed yakriv oto lirtzono lifnei Adonai v'samach yado al rosh haolav v'nirtzalo lechaper alav V'shachat et ben habakar lifnei Adonai v'hikrivu b'nei Aharon hakohanim et Adam v'zarku et Adam al hamizbeach saviv asher petach ohel moed v'hivshit et holav v'nitachlotav v'intacheha v'natinu b'nei Aharon hakohen eish al hamizbeach v'archu etzim al ha'esh V'archu b'nei Aharon hakohanim et antachim et harosh v'et habader al ha'etzim asher al ha'esh asher al hamizbeach v'kirbo uchrav yirchatz b'mayim v'hiktir hakohen et hakol hamizbecha ola yishereach nichoach l'Adonai v'im min hatzon korbano min hakshavim o min ha'ezim Ve'im min hatzon korbano min haksavim o min ha'izim le'ola zachar tamim yakrivenu v'shachat oto al yerech hamizbeach tzafona lifnei Adonai v'zarku b'nei Aharon hakohanim et damo al hamizbeach saviv v'nitach oto lintachav et rosho ve'et pidro Ve'arach hakohen otam al ha'etzim asher al ha'esh asher al hamizbeach v'haker v'hakrain yirchatz b'mayim v'hikriv hakohen et hakol v'hiktir hamizbecha olahu ishay reach nichoach l'Adonai
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher notan lanu Torah emes v'chayei olam natav v'tzokenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
נא לעמוד,
Yeshayahu Natan ben Yaakov Halevi Ufranto.
נא להיאבד.
We're on page 589, verse 14. Baruch hu Adonai HaMavorach. Baruch Adonai HaMavorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ve'im mena'ov ola karbano la'Adonai v'ikriv min ha'torim v'bnei hayonah el karbano et karbano v'ikrivo ha'kohen el hamizbeach u'malak et rosho v'ktir hamizbecha v'nimtza dmo al kir hamizbeach v'yisir et mu'ato v'notzata v'yishlichota et el hamizbeach kedmon el makom hazashen ושיסה אותו בכנפיו, לא יבדיל, והקטיר אותו הכהן המזבח על העצים אשר לאש עולה הוא, אישי ריח ניחוח לאדוני, ונפש כי תקריב קרבן מנחה לאדוני, סולת יהיה קרבנו, ויצעק עליה שמן ונתן עליה לבונה, וביאה אל בני אהרון הכהנים, וקמץ משם מולוקום זו, מסלתה ומשמנה על כל עונתה, והקטיר הכהן את אזכרתה המזבחה, אישי ריח ניחוח לאדוני, ונותרת מן המנחה להרון לבניו קודש קדשים אישי אדוני, כי תקריב קרבן מנחה מאפי תנור סולת, חלות מצות כלולות בשמן, ורקיקי מצות משוחים בשמן. ואם מנחה על מחוות קרבניך, סולת כלולה בשמן מצה תהיה, פתות אותה פיתים, והצקת עליה שמן מנחה היא.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Nā la'amod.
Chaim Steve and Mordechai, the Chaya Sarah.
Sora Blima Bat Mordechai the Elkapara.
La'aliyah Gimel.
Baruch hu et Adonai Avarach. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
ואימך פרחשת קורבנך סולת אשר מתסה והבאת את עמך אשר יסד מעלה לאדוני והגיבה לכהן והקשה למזבח והרים הכהן מן עמך את אזכרתה והקטיר המזבח אישי המזבח אישי ריח ניחוח לאדוני להנותרת מן המיכל, להנותרת מן המיכל, להנותרת מן המיכל, להרון ובניו, קודש קדשים אישי אדוני, כל מיכל אשר תקריבו לאדוני, לא תעשה חמץ, כי כל שעור וכל לבש לא תתירו ממנו אישה לאדוני. קורבן ראשית, תקריבו אותם לאדוני. ועל המזבח לא יעלו לריח נחלה ובו קורבן מחדך במלאך תמלך ולא תשביעי מלאך ברית אלוהיך מעל מחדך על כל קורבנך תקריב מלאך ואם תשביעי מחד בישורים לאדוני אביב תלוי באש גרס כרמל תקריב את מחד בתבורך ונתת עליה שמן ושמת עליה לבנה מיכה היא והגדיר הכהן את אזכרתה וגרשה ומשמנה על כל עוונתה אישה לאדוני.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
נא לעמוד. לעלייה ד'.
Christ Adonai Abavad, Baruch atah Adonai, Elohim melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'nasa lanu es torato, Baruch atah Adonai notן התורה.
אמן. ואם זבח שלמים קרבנו, אם מן הבקר הוא מקריב, אם זכר ונקבה, דמים יקריבנו בפני אדוני, ושמח ידו ראש קרבנו, ושחטו פתח המועד, וזרקו בני אהרון הכהנים את הדם על מזבח סביב, והקריב מזבח השלמים איש של אדוני, את החלב המכסה את הקרב, ואת כל החלב אשר על הקרב, ואת שתי הכליות, ואת החלב אשר עליהן, אשר על הכסלים, ואת היותר על הכבד, על הכליות יסירנה, והתירו אותו בני אהרון ומזבחה על העולה, אשר על העצים, אשר על האש, אישי ריח ניחוח לאדוני, אם מן הצאן קרבנו, לזבח שלמים לאדוני, זכר או נקבה, תמים יקריבנו, אם כסף הוא מקריב קרבנו, והקריב אותו לפני אדוני, ושמח ידו ראש קרבנו, ושחט אותו לפני אוהל המועד, וזרקו בני אהרון את דמו על המזבח סביב, והקריב מזבח השלמים, איש של אדוני, חלבו היה תמימה, לימת פצע וסירנה, ואת החלב המכסה את הקרב, ואת כל החלב אשר על הקרב, ואת שתי הכליות, ואת החלב אשר עליהן, אשר על הכסלים, ואת היותר על הכבד, על הכליות יסירנה, והקריבו הכהן מזבחה, לחם איש של אדוני, ימז קרבנו, והקריבו לפני אדוני, ושמח ידו על ראשו, ושחט אותו לפני אוהל המועד, וזרקו בני אהרון את דמו על המזבח סביב, והקריב ממנו קרבנו איש של אדוני, את החלב המכסה את הקרב, ואת כל החלב אשר על הקרב, ואת שתי הכליות, ואת החלב אשר עליהן, אשר על הכסלים, ואת היותר הכבד, על הכליות יסירנה, ותירם הכהן המזבחה, לחם אשר לריח ניחוח, כל חלב לאדוני, חוקת עולם לדורותיכם, בכל מושבותיכם, כל חלב וכל דם, לא תאכלו.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהים מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נעשה בחסד, ברוך אתה אדוני, נותן התורה.
נא לעמוד.
Your name?
Mordecai ben Avraham.
Aliyah, hey.
Baruch Adonai Hamavah. Baruch Adonai Hamavah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai notן התורה.
Amen. Vayedaber Adonai Moshe lemor. Daber Bnei Yisrael lemor. Nefesh kitata bishkavga mikol mitzvot Adonai asher lo tesena ve'asa me'achat mehina im hakohen hamashiach yecheta le'ashmatam v'ikriv v'chatata shechata karb bakar tamim Adonai lechatat levieta par el petach el hamoed lifnei Adonai samach yado al rosh hapar shecharit hapar lifnei Adonai v'lakach hakohen hamashiach midam hapar levioto el hamoed v'tavar hakohen tetzba'ot dam izamin adam sheva פעמים לפני אדוני לפני פרוכת הקודש ונתן הפעמים אדם הקרנות מזבח כתות הסמים לפני אדוני אשר באוהל המועד ויקודם הפר ישפוך יסוד מזבח העולה אשר פתח המועד וכל חלב פר החטאת ירים ממנו את החלב המכסת על הקרב וכל החלב אשר על הקרב ואת שתי הכליות ואת החלב אשר עליהן אשר על הכסלים ואת היותר על הכבד על הכליות יסירנה כאשר יורם משור זבח השלמים ותירם הכהן על מזבח העולה את אור הבא בכל בשרו על ראשו ואפיו וקבו ופרשו יוציא כל הפר ומחוץ למחנה למקום טהור על שפך הדשן ישרף אותו על עצים באש על שפך הדשן ישרף ואם בדק ישראל ישקו נעלם דבר בעיני הקהל ועשו אחת מכל מצוות אדוני אשר לא תעשנה והשמו ונודעה החטאת אשר חטאו עליה הקריב הקהל פר במקר לחטאת והביאו אותו לפני אוהל מועד ושמחו לפני העדה ידיהם לראש הפר לפני אדוני שחט הפר לפני אדוני והביא הכהן המשיח מדם הפר לאוהל מועד וטבע לכהן אצבעו מהדם והיזה 7 פעמים לפני אדוני את פני פרוכת מן הדם ייתן הקנות המזבח אשר לפני אדוני אשר באוהל מועד וכל אדם ישפוך יסוד מזבח העולה אשר פתח המועד ואת כוכבו ירים ממנו לתיר המזבח ועשה על הפר כאשר עשה לפר החטאת כן יעשה לו וכיפר עליהם הפעם נסלח להם ויוציא את הפר ומחוץ למחנה שרף אותו אשר שרף את הפר הראשון חטאת הקהל הוא אשר נשיא יחטא ועשה אחת ממצוות אדוני מכל מצוות אדוני אלוהיו אשר לא תעשנה בשגגה והשם לא הודה אליו חטאתו אשר חטא בה והביא קבנו שעיזים זכר תמים ושמח ידו ראש השעיר שחט אותו במקום אשר ישחט כלה לפני אדוני חטאת הוא ולקח הכהן מדם החטאת אצבעו ונתן הקרנות מזבח העולה ודמו ישפוך יסוד מזבח העולה וכוכבו יקטיר מזבחה וכלי זבח השלמים וכיפר עליו הכהן מחטאתו ונסלח לו.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורה אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Before we go to the next aliyah, we want to offer our prayers for those who are ill. We will go around the room. If you have a name that you'd like to add to our printed list of names, please stand in your place and you'll have an opportunity to add that name to our prayers.
May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing and let us stay. Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body
Yitzchak Yaakov et Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. ויברך וירפא את כל החולים והנפגעים ויעז. כל החולים והנפגעים בעבור שאנחנו מתפללים בעבורם ובשעזר הקדוש ברוך הוא ישלח להם מהירות ושלמה מן השמיים רפואת הנפש ורפואת הגוף ולאלה המטפלים בהם יברכם הקדוש ברוך הוא בבריאות לחוכמה ותבונה עוצמה ואהבה כדי שיטפלו בהם כראוי. Abagalau is man Karivan Omar Amen. We pray that the Ribono Shel Olam grant the refuah shlema, complete and speedy recovery to all those who are suffering. May God bless their caregivers with good health and with hearts of strength and courage and wisdom and love to be able to do everything possible and everything necessary on their behalf. And we say Amen.
Amen.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah. Amen.
Amen. בנפש אחת, הקדש גם אמרת בעשותה, אחת מצוות אדוני, אשר לא תעשנה בהשם, או די לך חטאתו אשר חטא, ויקבענו, סירת עזים תמימה נקבה, החטאתו אשר חטא, ושמח את ידו על ראש החטאת, שחטאת החטאת במקום העלה, ולקח הכהן מדמה בצבאו, ונתן הקרנות מזבח עלה, וכל דמה ישפוך, ויסוד המזבח, וכל חבה יסיר. Asher Chelev, Al Zevach Hashalamim, Victir, Grimsbeck, Alabeth Nikok, Tonight, Vikiper Alav, Akohem Venislach Lo, Bim Keves, Yavi Kabanola, Atat, Nikimach Mima Yviena, Samakat Yado, Al Rosh Atat, Jachado Talakatat, Bim Kom, Asher Ishkarat Haula, Lakakat Hemi Damakatat, Betpo, Benatan, Akanabis Bakla, Kodama Ishpok, Esodam Isbech, Kakabaya Sir, Asher Yusuf, Caleb Aket, Izeva Kashalamim, Victoria Cohen, Tama Mizbecha, Ali Shernai, Vipera Lava Cohen, Akato Shakatab Nislaklo, Never Skitakata, Misham Ako Allah, who aid, Ora Oyada, Imloya Gibna Savono, O Nefesh, Asher Tiga, because of Artame, O Bivakayatame, O Benivat Behematmea, O Benivat Shevatame, Melami Menu, Utame Vashem, O Gab to Mat Adam, the whole tomato, Asher Mapa, Nelam Mimenu, Hiada Vashem, O Nefesh Ki Shabbat, but he was Vatai Mara, O Hati, the whole, say Bate Adam, is what we should have an alarm, Menu, Hiada Vashem, Lakat Meela, Yaki Asham, Lakat Meela, the heat Vada, Asher Kata Allah, Viviat Shamo, Adonai, Achato, Asher Kata, the Kebaminat Son, Kispa. O Siratizim, Nakatat, Nipper Allah, go ahead, make a toe, Beam low tug, Yado, they said, Viviat Shamo, Ashakata, Tato Reem, O Schnebeneonat, Adonai, Echad Katat, Echad Leola, Viviat Amalek, we grieve, אשר לחטאת ראשונה, ומלך את ראשו, ממול עורפו ולא יבדיל, והיזה מדם החטאת הקיר המזבח, ונשאר בדם, ימצא אסור המזבח, חטאת הוא, והשני יעשה עליו משפט, וכפר עליו הכהן, מחטאתו אשר חטא, ונסלח לו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
נא לעמוד, הבחור הבר מצווה.
Shine on them, kind feet, and sword lima.
לעלייה זין חזק.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Baruch Adonai Baruch Lelam Ba'ed Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Baruch Rabanu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Torah Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vim lo tasiga dol shetorim o ishne bnei ona vivik bano asher kata asvitaifa so lakata lesim Allah shemen voice eternal lavona ki katat hi evya lakohen kamat lakohen mimena lakum so taskata fikir mizbecha ali shernai katat hi vechiper lavakohen karato asher kata me'achad me'elav nislach lo hayetala kohen kamincha vaydaber Adonai Moshe Nefesh kitim homma, echat abish gaga, mikotcher nai, David, Shemalar nai, I'll come in at zone, Berkecha, Kesesh Kali Beshekala Kodesh Lasham, Veda Sher, Tamina Kodesh, Yishalem, Echemishito Yosef, Allah, Natano Tola Kohen, Kohen, Yechaper Allah, El Hasham, Nislach Lo, Im Nefesh kitechet Vesta, Acha, Mikos Water nai, Asher Lot Esena, Veda Hashem v'nasa avono, Evi, Ayotamim minatzon, V'kechal Hashem al-Kohen, V'chiper Allah, V'chiper, L'Kohen asher gigato, Asher shagag, V'hu lo yadav v'nislach lo, Hashem hu, Hashem l'Adonai, V'yidaber Adonai Moshe lemor, Nefesh kitekatam alama b'Adonai, V'chichesh b'amito b'fikadon, V'vitzum et yad, O v'gazel, O ashaket amito, Hamatzah v'da, V'chichesh b'amnishba, Ashaker alachat, Mikol, Asher yaseh Adam lakatov achina v'haya yechetav v'Hashem v'hivrak zela asher gazal o et ha'oshek asher ashak o et ha'pikadon asher hofkar ito o et ha'aveda asher matzah o mikol asher shava alav la'sheker v'shilamot b'rosho v'chmishitav Yosef alav asher hu lo yitenu b'yom hashmato v'shema yavi l'Adonai ayotamim min atzon v'chal Hashem l'Kohen v'chiper L'Kohen Adonai Nislach Lo Alachat Mikol Asher Yaseh Liashma Va.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam atah b'tochenu Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen.
Please rise.
Yitkada, Yitkada, Shemei Rabbi. Amen. Rabbi Divrach Yirtei V'yamlich Malchutei.
V'chayevon Yomechon U'chayevon Yisrael Farala Farala U'bizman Marim V'imru Amen Yeishmei Rabbi
V'yihadar, v'yidaleh, v'yidhalal, shmei dekut shabbat. Le'ela, min kol berchata v'shirata.
Tushbechata v'nechemasa, kamiran be'alma, v'imru.
Those who are honored with lifting and binding the first Torah, please come forward.
Nala'amod, lahagvad, la'ul galilat, sefer rishon.
May be seated. So, Shai, stand up. Yishevei Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'Timotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah v'Yivarech et Habachur Habar Mitzvah Shai Ilan ben Chaim Tzvi v'Sarah Blima Bavur Shala Hayom Od HaMakom L'chvod HaShabbat v'L'chvod HaTorah L'itein Shevach v'Hoda'a L'Hashem HaGadol v'HaKadosh Al Kol HaTova Asher Asa Lo Elohim V'Yom Hivaldo Ad Hayom Hazeh Yizchar Zeh HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yichayeu v'Yishmereu Yeshalem Im Adonai Elohav להגות בתורתו, ללכת בדרכיו, לשמור מצוותיו, חוקותיו ומשפטיו. יהיה משכיל ומצליח בכל דרכיו, ימצא חן ושכל טוב בעיני אלוהים וידם, ויזכו הוריו לגדלו לתורה ולחוקה ולמעשים טובים, ונאמר אמן. God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless this bar mitzvah, Shai Ilan ben Chaim Tzvi, Sarah Blima, who has marked this occasion by being called to the Torah. He's come with reverence for God, the Torah, and the Shabbat, to thank God for all the good which has been his since the very day of his birth. May the Holy Blessed One grant him long life. May he be at one with the Lord his God, studying God's teachings, walking in God's paths. May he prosper in all his worthy endeavors and find favor before God and all people. May his parents rear him to adulthood imbued with love of Torah, meriting a life that knows the blessings of love and commitment, a life filled with the performance of good deeds, and let us say, Amen.
Simen Tov,
Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simen Tov, Simen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simen Tov, Simen Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simen Tov, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Lechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Lechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Lechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Lechol Yisrael.
And now our Mafia reading is on page. Okay, hold on.
1135.
Thank you. Okay, it's really not 1135, but
Verse 17.
thank you.
Yeah, verse 17.
Page 1135, verse 17, the bottom of the page. Na la'amod habachur habar mitzvah.
You want to get all of that in the kind of sword.
La'aliyah maftira chazah.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaBarach. Baruch Adonai HaBarach Olam Ba'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher Baruch Banu Mikol Ha'amin V'Natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Zachor et asher salacha Amalek b'derech v'titchem miMitzrayim asher karecha b'derech v'zaneh b'cha kol nefesh alim acharecha ve'ata ayef ve'agef v'lo yareh Elohim ve'haya v'aniach Adonai Elohecha lecha b'chol mikol oivecha misaviv ba'aretz asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha nachala l'rishta timcha et zecher Amalek mitachat hashamayim lo tishkach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten al Torah.
Amen. Don't go anywhere. Yishbei Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov et imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah hu yivarech et habachur habar mitzvah Yonah Gil ben Chaim Tzvi v'Sara Blima v'amur sha'ala hayom l'chvod hamakom l'chvod haShabbat v'l'chvod haTorah v'litain shevach v'hoda l'Hashem hagadol v'hakadosh al kol hatovah asher asa lo Elohim miyom hivaldo ad hayom hazeh. As the Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yichayehu Yishmerehu V'yeshalem im Adonai Elohav Lahagot b'Torato Lalechet b'drachav Lishmor mitzvotav Chukotav u'mishpatav V'yeh maskil u'matzliach b'chol drachav V'yimtza chen v'seichel tov b'einei Elohim ve'adam V'yizku horav l'gadlo l'Torah l'chuppah u'l'maasim tovim and Omar, Amen. May God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless this bar mitzvah, Yonah Gil ben Chaim Tzvi v'Sara Blima, who has marked this occasion by being called to the Torah. He has come with reverence for God, the Torah, and Shabbat, to thank God for all the good which has been his since the very day of his birth. May the Holy Blessed One grant him long life, may be at one with the Lord his God, studying God's teachings and walking in God's paths. May he prosper in all his worthy endeavors and find favor before God and all people. May his parents rear him to adulthood, imbued with love of Torah, and meriting a life that knows the blessings of love and commitment, a life filled with the performance of good deeds. And let us all say, Amen.
Simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov, simen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, simen tov. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael.
Nala Amod, Lahabad, Galilah, Sefer Sheni.
Who's got Hagban Galila lifting and binding the second Torah?
Please rise.
Ezok HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, Torah.
Maftir, the concluding prophetic reading is a special reading for this Shabbat. It's found in the back of our Chumashim. And it begins on page 1282. 1282. This Shabbat is called Shabbat Zachor, which means Shabbat with the imperative to remember. We're commanded to remember Amalek. And Amalek is a very, very deep and troubling topic in our tradition. I can't explain it all in 1 second. But Amalek, to offer one approach. Amalek was a people who attacked another people for no reason. They attacked another people, and they specifically attacked the harmless people, the people who were struggling to keep up with the Israelites as they were trudging through the wilderness. And they were the slow ones, the weak ones, the young ones, the women and children, the elderly, the infirm. Those were the ones that Amalek chose to attack. So Amalek in our tradition represents the choice to be cruel, evil, and murderous for no reason. And we are supposed to remember that there is such a human phenomenon. People who choose to attack other people for no good reason. If this sounds too relevant to this moment, so be it. But the fact that we're supposed to remember this also means that we're supposed to remember that we are all part of a human family, and that if any human being is capable of this, it means that we also are capable of this. How do we take this to heart? How do we incorporate within our consciousness the recognition that being a good person is a choice? It's not automatic. That not being gratuitously harmful is a choice. It's not automatic. It's not that there are some of us who are good and some of us who are bad. Each and every one of us has to make that choice, and that's what remembering is about. Take this into your consciousness. You could very well be, if you don't think about it, if you don't ask yourself profound questions about the humanity of another person, you could be the type of person who gives no thought to another person. No thought to their welfare, no thought to their humanity. Our history as human beings is full of examples of one group of humans completely denying the humanity of another group for no good reason at all. So this is a very, very tough topic, and our haftarah, our prophetic reading, is super, super challenging. We spent a lot of time this week trying to unpack this prophetic reading in our study group, and we just scratched the surface. We scratched the surface enough for it to hurt, enough for it to be troubling and not at all resolved. But we don't shirk our responsibility to put those questions out in front of each and every one of us. So it's a funny kind of thing. We have a beautiful, joyous, double bar mitzvah today. How happy we are. And as we welcome these two young men into the adult community of Israel, we ask them to read for us this story. Right? Not some happy-go-lucky story, the hardest, toughest one of our stories in our tradition. Page 1282 is where it starts, preceded and concluded by blessings.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nbiim tovim v'ratza b'divrei hanamarim v'emet. Baruch atah Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Avocher Batarai with Musaf Del Israel I know and God said Ko Amar Adonai Tzavot Bekadati Asher Sa Amalek Israel Asher Sa Lo Baderech Balo Jomi Mitzrayim Ata Lech Vikita et Amalek V'Hacharam Tana Kol Shalom Lo Takmo Alav V'Himata V'ish Adisha Me'olel V'Yadunei Mishor V'Yatzeh V'Tamar V'Yachamor V'Yashana Shaul Ad V'Yafkedim B'Avonim V'Atayim Aleph V'Avli V'Yaser Alefim V'Ish Yehuda V'Yavo Shaul Adir Amalek V'Yarek Banacha V'Yomer Shaul Alakeni L'Chub Surubedu Mitoch Amaleki Hanosifachai Imo V'Ata Asita Chased Im Kol B'nei Israel V'Alotami Mitzrayim V'Yasar Keni Mitoch Amalek V'Yach Shaul Et Amalek Nechavila B'Lacha Ashur Asher Al B'nei Mitzrayim V'Yitposh Et Agag Melech Amalek Chai V'Et Kol Ham Hacharim Lefi Charav V'Yachmo Shaul V'Ha'am Al Agag V'Yametoch Atzah V'Havakar V'Hamishnim V'Yachakarim Gel Kol Atov V'Lo Avu Hacharimam V'Chol HaMacha Namizav V'Namis Otah Hacharimim V'Yi Devar Adonai El Shmuel Lemor Niramti Ki Himachti Et Shaul L'Melech Yishad Me'acharai V'Et Devarai Lo Hekim V'Yachar L'Shmuel V'Yizak El Adonai Kol Halayla V'Yashkem Shmuel Libra Shaul Baboker V'Yigad L'Shmuel Lemor V'Shaul HaKarmela V'Hinei Matziv Lo Yad V'Yisov V'Yavor V'Yerav Hagilgal V'Yavo Shmuel El Shaul V'Yomer Lo Shaul Baruch Atah Adonai Akimoti Et Devar Adonai V'Yomer Shmuel El Shaul V'Yomer Shmuel Umeh V'Otzo Nazeh Be'eznai V'Ol Habakar Asher Pi Shameach V'Yomer Shaul Me'amaleki Haviyud Asher Chama Ametoch Hatzon V'Habakar V'Man Zebalach L'Adonai Elohecha V'Ata Yoter HaChiramu V'Yomer Shaul V'Yomer Shmuel El Shaul Cheref V'Yidad L'cha Asher Diber Adonai Eli Halayla V'Yomer Lo Daber V'Yomer Shmuel Hala Inkato Atah Ve'necha Rov Shivkei Yisrael Ata V'Yimshachacha Adonai L'Melech Al Yisrael V'Yimshachacha Adonai L'Darach V'Yomer Lech V'Hacharam Ta'ah Et Hachatayim Et Amalek V'Yomcham Ta'ah Vo Ad Kolotam Otam V'Lama Lo Shamata V'Kol Adonai V'Ta'at El HaShalal V'Ta'at Hara Be'enei Adonai V'Yomer Shaul El Shmuel Asher Shamati B'Kol Adonai V'Ylech B'Derech Asher Sholchani Adonai V'Avi Et Agag Melech Amalek V'At Amalek Hecheramti V'Kacha Me'Shalal So V'Bakar Rishit Hacherem Lizbawach L'Nail Hacher B'Gilgal V'Yomer Shmuel Hachefetz L'Adonai B'Lo Tusachim Yishmo B'Kol Adonai V'Nei Shemoa B'Zeh V'Achtov V'Akshiv Michel Avilim Ki Chatat Kesem Mary V'Yavenu Shafim Hapsar Yan Ma'ascha Et Devar Adonai V'Yimascha Mimelech V'Yomer Shaul Shmuel Chatati Ki Averti Et Pi Adonai V'Et Devarecha כי הראיתי את העם ואשמע בקולם, ואתה שנא את חטאתי ושוב עמי וישתחווה לאדוני. ויאמר שמואל אל שאול לא אשוב עמך כי מאסת את דבר אדוני וימסך אדוני להיות מלך על ישראל. ויטוב שמואל ללכת ויחזק בכנף מעילו ויקרא. ויאמר אליו שמואל קרא אדוני הממלכות ישראל נלך היום ונתנה לרעך הטוב ממך וגם נצח ישראל לא ישקר ולא ינחם כי לא אדם שוב להנחם. ויאמר חטאתי אתה קטני נא נגד דבי ונגד ישראל ונגד ישראל ושוב עמי והשתחוויתי לאדוני אלוהיך. וישב שמואל אחרי שאול וישתחו שאול לאדוני. ויאמר שמואל הגישו אלי את אגג מלך עמלק וילך אליו אגג מאדוני. ויאמר אגג אכן צמא המוות. ויאמר שמואל כאשר תגלו נשים חרבך כי תשקול מנשים אמך. וישסף שמואל את אגג לפני עיני בגלגל. וילך שמואל המעתה בשאול עלה ביתו גבעות שאול. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם צור כל העולמים סביב לכל הדורות האל הנאמן האומר ויעשה המדבר מקיים שכל רע ומבצדק. נאמן אתה הוא עיני אלוהינו ונאמנים דבריך ודבריך יברך אחור לא ישיב ריקם כי על מלך נאמן ברחמן אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל לבב. רחם על ציון כי בחיינו ולא עליבת נפש תושיח כי הרע בימינו ברוך אתה אדוני שמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו עיני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך ובמלכות תביא משיחך במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו על כיסו לא ישזר ולא נחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו שלא יכפני בו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו עיני אלוהינו מקדושת ממך לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל עיני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך וברך שמך ובפיקוחך תמיד לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני לקדש השבת.
Those who are honored with offering the prayers for our country, for the state of Israel, and for peace, please come forward. Page 148, at the bottom of the page, the prayer for our country comes first. Then 149.
A prayer for our country. O God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings for our country and for its government, for its leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights from your Torah that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony, to banish hatred and bigotry, to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. May this land, under your providence, be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet, Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say,
Amen. Prayer for Israel. $149, the top of the page.
Avinu Shabashamayim.
Israel,
Baruch Adonai Israel. Hagen Eloheinu Baruch Havdecha. Ufresh Aleha V'Tashomecha. Ushlav Barcha Amidah Parashecha. Sareha V'Yoseha. V'Taknei Beitza Torah Nelohecha. Chazak Eloheinu V'Yashenu Adonai Yeshua. V'Yateret Tzachon V'Tashem. V'Nasar Shalom V'Aretz V'Love V'Yoshbeha V'Nemar.
Amen. Middle of page 149, we'll offer a much-needed prayer for peace.
May we see the day when war and bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world. And mankind will not again know war. For all who live on earth shall realize we have not come into being to hate or to destroy. We have come into being to praise, to labor, and to love. Fulfill the promise conveyed in Scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and you shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you. I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and it shall not be ravaged by war. Let love and justice flow like a mighty stream. Let peace fill the earth as the waters fill the sea. And let us say, Amen.
Thank you. May be seated for a moment. Page 151, Ashrei. Those who are honored with carrying the Torahs and returning them to the ark, opening the ark, closing the ark, please come forward so that you'll be ready to do those sacred chants. 151. Go ahead, Ashrei.
Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Odi Alu Hasala.
Ashrei Am Shebachalo, Ashrei Am Shebachalo.
Tehillah leDavid, Nichalo Chai Amalek, V'Adachar Shimcha Le'Olam Va'ed.
Yehoyom Avachecha, Shimcha Le'Olam Va'ed.
Gadol Adonai Kulam Me'od, V'Ligdoto in Heket.
Dor L'Olam Ha'asecha, Dor L'Olam Yahidu.
Hadar Kevolodecha, V'Divrei Niflotecha Aslicha.
Ve'Zudur Yomeru, Dur L'Ha'asafena.
Zecher Avtucha Yaviu, V'Sikacha Yironenu.
Anugrah U'Adonai, Erech Abayinu Ta'aseh.
Tov Adonai L'Kol, V'Rachmana L'Kol Ma'asav.
Yodim Adonai Kol Ma'asecha, V'Hasidecha Yivarucha.
Kivod Malchutecha Yomeru, U'Gvuratecha Yidaberu.
Yodim Anugrah, V'Oratam Malchuto.
Malchutecha Malchut Kol Olamim, U'Memshaltecha V'Chol Dor V'Ador.
Sohem Adonai L'Kol Ha'Vadim, Zoket L'Kol Ha'Kudim.
Eidei Choli L'Cha Yisaberu, V'Yatanu Timahan Et Oflam Be'ito.
Oreach Et Yadecha, U'Mokir L'Kol Ha'Ratzon.
Tzadik Adonai B'Chol Derachav, V'Chasid B'Chol Ma'asav.
Karov Adonai L'Kol Ha'Rav, L'Kol Asher Yimanu B'Emet.
Ritzon Yirayav Ya'asav, V'Et Shabata Yishma V'Yashir.
Shomer Adonai L'Kol Ha'Rav, L'Kol Ha'Shanim Yashmid.
Tehillah Adonai Dar Mervi, V'Yiresh Kol Basar Shim B'Shol Le'olam Va'ed.
V'Anachnu Nevareka, V'Yatzav Olam. Hallelujah.
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 154. Take your seats, please. Our tradition is a tradition of learning. It's a tradition of thinking and sharing our thoughts and challenging each other. We have a Torah. We read from that, from the scroll. And in that book, which is sacred to us, there are many voices and there are many conflicting messages already in the Torah. And then we have the prophetic reading, which we just read as well, the Haftarah, which itself comes from many, many generations of our ancestors struggling with the message of the Torah and adding their voices to the conversation. And now, as we celebrate Jonah and Shai becoming bar mitzvah, we welcome them into the conversation. And we say, you have something to share. What do you think? What have you learned? What can you teach us? What can you give to us to think about and to chew on? We're not going to chew on the candy, right? And we're not going to rustle the candy. We're waiting to shower our two b'nai mitzvah later with the sweet wishes through the candy after they're both finished. Now let's listen up.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
This week's Parsha, Vayikra, talks a lot about sacrifices. It lays out lots and lots and lots of rules about sacrifices, and animal sacrifices too. And this part of our history can feel confusing and uncomfortable. Why do we do this? Why do we slaughter animals at the Mishkan and eventually the Holy Temple? How can we make sense of that? Basically, what we read in the first few lines of Vayikra was that God understood the Israelites wanted to have a close relationship with God, but they didn't quite know what to do to get there. You may be thinking, so the first thought was animal sacrifices? Well, it's actually not that far-fetched. Some Torah scholars point to the scene at the base of Mount Sinai, where God witnessed the Israelites worshiping the golden calf, while Moses was up at the mountaintop, waiting to receive the Ten Commandments. It became clear, the thinking goes, that the Israelites needed tangible ways of connecting to God, and in the ancient world, sacrifice was how it was done. God laid out specific rules about how to use the action of sacrifice to get closer to God. Specific animals that could be used, a process of making sacrifices, and circumstances that would prompt a member of the Israelite community to make a sacrifice. Here's a brief rundown of the 5 sacrifices that were described in this week's reading. First, we have the Olah offering, which is your classic burnt offering. Think sheep, goat, cattle, even birds. If you're a member of the Jewish community 2,500 years ago, give or take, and you wanted to feel extra close to God, this is the sacrifice for you. The entire sacrifice was burnt at the altar in dedication to God. Next, we have the Mincha offering, which was typically a grain offering. In contrast to the Olah offering, most of the Mincha offering went to the holy priests who relied on these kinds of sacrifices for sustenance. There were also 2 types of atonement offerings, a sin offering and a guilt offering. If an Israelite misused or mistreated objects in the sanctuary or the sanctuary itself, or promised something in God's name without intending to fulfill the promise, or made an unintentional mistake, an atonement offering would be the right next step. Lastly, we have the well-being offering, known as Zavach Shalamim. The word Zavach literally means slaughter. The word Shalamim comes from the word Shalom, which means well-being or wholeness. The Shalamim offering was one of the more celebratory sacrifices. An Israelite would make a well-being offering to celebrate a joyous event, or to spread a feeling of wholeness to others in the community. If an Israelite was to wake up one day feeling fulfilled or grateful, they might want to make a Shalamim offering. The Shalamim offering was also special because of how many people were able to enjoy it. Not just the priests, but the person making the offering, as well as their close family members and others in the community who could just use a good meal. In fact, the person making the Shalamim sacrifice had just 3 days to finish the sacrificial meal. So the more people they invited to share in the feast, the better able they would be to finish the meal within the prescribed time frame. This offering thus became an offer of peace and well-being for the broader community, a sacrifice made as a way to bring community members together. When I was studying this Torah reading, I couldn't help but think of these past 2 years. COVID has required us all to make any number of sacrifices, sacrificing how we breathe while we wear masks, sacrificing our freedom of movement during periods of quarantine and isolation, sacrificing our ability to be each other naturally while we maintain social distancing, or many of the other things you likely sacrifice throughout this difficult time. The Shalamim offering was a sacrifice made by those who could afford to make it, and which benefited the broader community. Of course, Shalamim offering was made out of a sense of joy and abundance. The sacrifices of these past 2 years were rooted in something much, much different. While the sacrifices we made these last 2 years didn't come from a place of joy and abundance, many of us sitting here were able to make the sacrifices we made because of our abundance, because we could. We have all had to give up a lot and lost a bit of our sanity from time to time, but by making these sacrifices, we are approaching a time where we can really be together like we used to, with an easy sense of well-being, both for ourselves and for each other. I'm so grateful that we are in a place today where we can all gather together as a community to celebrate our Bar Mitzvah. There are a few special people I'd like to thank for all they did to help me reach this moment. But before I do, I just want to say a few words about one other important project, part of my Bar Mitzvah experience, my Bar Mitzvah project. For my Mitzvah project, I participated in a program called From the Survivor, in which I was paired with a Holocaust survivor who shared the story with me. The survivor I was paired with is named Faye Malkin. My mom, Faye, and I have spent a couple of hours talking with each other and going through Faye's family experience during the Holocaust. Her story is fascinating. If you want to learn more about the From the Survivor program, please come and find me after services. Now on to those thank yous. Thank you to More Lily, More Ayla, More Keith, More Yael, More Anat, and everyone at the JLC for teaching me about the stories, culture, and language of Israel and the Jewish people, and for doing it all in a way that was fun too. Rabbi Greenstein, thank you for teaching me about my Torah and my Haftorah. Sarah Farbiage, thank you for teaching me literally everything I needed to know for my Bar Mitzvah, my Torah reading, my Haftorah reading, and all of my tefillah. Thank you for staying patient with me when I would ask you to repeat lines over and over and over. Thank you to my Nana and Zadie for being with me today. Thank you for always making my tallest back. Thank you for making me my tallest back and tefillin back, and for always making us meatballs. Thank you to my grandma and papa for being here today too. Thank you for pointing out all the alligators, for hitting golf balls with me, and for going to the pool. Oh, there you are. Thank you to my aunts, uncles, and cousins for being here today. It wouldn't be the same without you guys. Thank you, Orly. It's impossible to describe how grateful I am for you. You always give me great advice about all sorts of things. I know you want the best for me. You're the best sister I could ever ask for. Thank you, Shai. As most of you probably know, Shai and I are identical twins. We get mistaken for each other quite a bit, which neither of us really enjoy, but it's worth it to be your brother. I remember when we were younger and we shared a room. Every night we would talk about everything. I wouldn't give up those memories for the world, and I can't wait to make more of them with you. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I don't know where to begin. You guys have always been there to help me and to push me to be the best version of myself. You always make time for me, and I've always been there to comfort me every step of the way. You guys have shaped me into the best person you guys shaped me into the person I've become, and I honestly believe you guys are the best parents in the world. I love you guys so much. And thank you all for supporting me along my journey. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Today I'd like to talk to you guys about love languages. To put it simply, love languages are the way that people experience love or choose to express it to others. When you speak to someone in their love language, you show them that you really understand them and that you'll go out of your way to express yourself in a way that really speaks to them. And when you do that, you can deepen your relationship with them. For example, one way I can say I love you and appreciate you to my mom is by putting my laundry in the washer without being asked. To say I love you and I appreciate you to my dad, I just have to take the garbage cans out to the curb. And, of course, my dog has a love language, throwing her frisbee again and again and again and again. In this week's Torah portion, we learned about God's offering of an initial love language for the Israelites. He went for the language of sacrifice, an animal sacrifice too. I know, right? But let's take a closer look and see what we can learn. Essentially, God understood that the Israelites wanted to feel close to God, but they didn't quite know how to do it. So, God told the Israelites exactly what to do. God understood that the Israelites needed something concrete to do, actions to take, in order to feel some kind of connection to this abstract version of God. So, God created specific rules for the Israelites for how they could feel close to God depending on the situation. In this week's Torah reading, God outlined 5 different types of conversations the Israelites would probably need or want to have with God. Conversations about seeking connection, about atonement, about gratitude, and gave the Israelites specific instructions about how to use the act of sacrifice to express themselves in a way that God will understand. Let's look at 2 of these situations in more detail. God anticipated the Israelites would make mistakes, that they need a specific set of instructions on how to communicate with God when they did something wrong unintentionally. The chatat, or sin offering, was God's set of instructions to the Israelites on how to speak to God in these instances. Whether it was an unintentional sin committed by the high priest, or by the king, or even by the common person, God understood that true accountability to yourself and to God wasn't always easy. God gave the Israelites instructions on how to do that deep internal work when they messed up. God told the Israelites, if you commit a chatat, a sin, you need to sacrifice fine flour or an unblemished animal. Those sacrificed animals should be burnt at the altar with smoke rising up to God. The blood of the animal should be collected and thrown on the outer corners of the altar. And, as the story goes, if you follow these instructions, if you spoke God's love language in that moment, God would speak back to you and offer you the kind of relief we're all looking for after we mess up. Maybe you feel less alone. Maybe you feel forgiven. Maybe you feel like you have another chance. Let's look at one more example. If you're an Israelite 2,500 years ago and you want to give things, there's a specific love language. That's right, another sacrifice for you. The well-being offering, or Zebach Shalomim, was offered when an Israelite felt gratitude, whether it was for something specific, like a baby being born, or something more general, like an overall feeling of abundance. This offering was also burned or cooked on the altar. In contrast to the sin offering, the Shalomim, or well-being offering, was shared with the priest as well as close family members and others in the community. And what you were left with in return was a sense of well-being, not because you were forgiven for something or because you gained favors with the priest, but because you expressed gratitude to God exactly as God requested. Well, we've come a long way since then. We don't sacrifice animals anymore to communicate with or get closer to God. The love language between God and the Jewish people has evolved a lot and can actually be mapped onto the 5 main love languages identified by relationship experts, and that some of you may recognize too. One of the modern day love languages is referred to as words of affirmation, the words we say to each other. For the Jewish people, this amounts to prayer. The words of seeking and thanksgiving we offer to God during daily prayer services and other special moments. A second modern day love language is known as acts of service, like doing my own laundry and taking out the recycling. For the Jewish people, this could be thought of the love language of Mitzvah, like taking care of the sick and honoring your parents. A third modern day love language is the language of gift giving. The Mishloach Manot baskets we'll be giving each other next week when we celebrate the holiday of Purim are an example of how gifts are used to honor God's commandment of remembering important times in our history. The fourth modern day love language is known as quality time. For some people, it's not about the gifts or the gestures or the words. It's just about being present. The Jewish people speak to God in this love language each and every week on Shabbat. We take a break from our normal routines and we slow down just for one day. We spend time together or alone, giving us a chance to reconnect with God. Finally, we have the love language of physical touch. And yes, believe it or not, God's got this one covered too. We use physical touch to communicate with God, to feel closer to God all the time. When we kiss the tzitzit during the daily recitation of the Shema, when we touch the Torah as it passes on Shabbat, or when we hold the yad when reading from the Torah. I've got some words of affirmation for a few people who I'd really like to thank for all they did to help me get to this moment. But before I do, I just wanted to say just a few words about one of the part of my bar mitzvah experience, my mitzvah project. For my mitzvah project, I'm working with Laptop Upcycle. Laptop Upcycle is a program that organizes volunteers to clean and reprogram older broken computers and then donates those refurbished computers to students who can't afford them. If you want to hear more about this program, feel free to ask me during the Kaddish. Now, back to those thank yous. Thank you to Mourner, Lily, Moore Elav, Moore Keith, and everyone at the JLC for always making learning fun. Thank you to Rabbi Greenstein for teaching me about my Torah portion. A big thank you to Sarah Farbiash for helping me learn my Torah, half-Torah, and everything in between. You were always patient and happy to teach me. I don't know how I could have done this without you. Thank you to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who traveled from far away and who have always loved and been there for me. It won't be the same if you guys weren't here. To my Nana and Zadie, you guys are the best. Thank you for being there for me. Whenever I'm with you guys, it feels like home. Also, thank you guys so much for the talis and tefillin bags. They're beautiful. I love you guys so much. Grandma and Papa, I have so many great memories of spending time with you. Running around Funtime Junction when we were super little, dressing up in superhero costumes, taking walks with you guys to the pool, hanging out, and listening to music on the lanai. Here's to all the memories still to come. I love you both so much. Orly, thank you for being such a good influence on me. Really. I've looked up to you as long as I've been your brother, and you've helped me so much. More than you know. I know you'll always have my back, and one day when you need me, I'll have yours too. I love you. Jonah. I remember when we were little and share the room, we would do official business deals, trading our stuffed animals and then Pokemon cards to each get our favorites. At times, we even had our own language, making up games like pikeball, making each other laugh without saying a word, and knowing how to help each other in the exact right way. Every new experience I've gone through, good or bad, I wasn't alone because I went through it with you. I love you so much. Happy Bar Mitzvah. And to Mom and Dad, thank you guys so much. You guys have always been there for me, to teach me, to guide me, and to make things easier when you can, to help me through the hard times when you can. Whether we're just hanging out at home or out there in the world making our own adventure, you guys have always made the time fun. Maybe that's the best thing you guys have taught me so far, how to just enjoy what you're doing, whatever it is. I can't wait for whatever adventures we still all have stored for our family. I love you both with all of my heart. Shabbat Shalom.
Come on. What we have? Okay. Now we gently loft the soft sweetness that we have in our hand and bring them over to our good friends on B'nai We need some cleanup over here. We need some cleanup. Help me out with the cleanup. Oh, my God. Mitzvah, yeah, wow, that's it. Yay. And now you got some. Go now. We're about ready for Musaf. Musaf. It ain't over yet. The concluding section of our service begins on page 155 with the half Kaddish. We rise, and then we will begin the beginning of the Amidah, the standing prayer. As a community, Jonah will lead us out loud in the beginning parts, 156b and 157, and then we remain standing, and each of us offers our prayers in silence. And I asked for silence last time. Some people find that to be the hardest sacrifice of all. Guests are guests because they bring a certain amount of consideration and friendship to the situation. And one way to express that is by being silent when being asked to be silent. So please maintain your silence. Take your seat when you're finished. When everyone is finished, we'll get to the conclusion of our service. Page 155, half Kaddish, and then 156b, the beginning of the Amidah.
Ikadal, Ikada, Shomrei, Rabbi. Yom HaDivrach Yortai, Yom Lichmochotai, Vishirata, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'al HaGadol HaGibor VaNorah Al Yom Gomel Hasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Nasei Yaveh U'Mevi Goel K'neihem L'Man Shemo V'Yahava Melech Ozer Mashiach Magid Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Magen Abraham V'Vukei Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai V'Chayim Etim HaTorah V'Hoshia V'Shikar Ruach U'Mari HaGashem V'Chayim B'Chesed V'Chayim Etim B'Rachami Rabbi Sohen Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim U'Matir Asurim U'Mekayem Emurato B'Shem Me'afa B'Tikal Mochapal B'Nurot U'Midal Melech Melech B'Nit U'Bechayeh U'Mastir Yishua V'Naaman Atah L'Chayot Metim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh HaMetim Ma'aritzecha V'Na'artisha V'Sol Siya Safei Kodesh Hamapishim Shimcha Kodesh Karatu Al-Yad V'Yecha Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Melech Haaretz Shomeru. Mikoma. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hu Eloheinu, Hu Eloheinu, Malkeinu, Hu Moshiachenu, V'Yivenu, Yashmi'enu, Yashmi'enu, V'Rachama, Shemish, Le'enei Kochai, V'Hu Yashmi'enu, V'Rachama, Shemish, V'Rachama, Shemish, Le'enei Kochai. L'chiyot l'chem Elohim, L'ftirei koshecha chatu le'mor. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador na'igod lecha. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador na'igod lecha. U'le'metzah le'tzachim kedushat echanatish kedushat echanatish v'shivcha Eloheinu yikinu lo yamush le'olam va'ed. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador na'igod lecha. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador. L'dor v'ador na'igod lecha. Ki Amalek gadol gadol v'kadosh gadol v'kadosh ata. Ki Amalek gadol gadol v'kadosh gadol v'kadosh ata. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
school Kaddish.
Gadol v'kadash Shomrei Rabbi. Amen. Yomar divrach yirtinu mikwachotei v'chaychonu yimachonu chaydecho be'Yisrael ba'agala u'b'Montclair v'Emunah. Yibarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yirtmam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudashav. Le'olam mikol b'yirchatzah v'shiratzah tishv'chatzah v'nechamatzah danilah b'yomar v'Emunah. Amen. Tigabal selot tonu v'avton b'chol Yisrael k'adal mav'honi v'shmaya v'Emunah. Amen. Teheish lamu rabba v'shmaya v'chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'Emunah. Amen. Oseh shalom v'yirmav v'yaseh shalom alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'Emunah.
Amen. May be seated for a moment. Page 182. Ein Keloheinu.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Keloheinu, Ein Keloheinu, Ein Keloheinu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Keloheinu, No Keloheinu, No Keloheinu, No Keloheinu, No Keloheinu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonai, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshiach, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonai, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshiach, Atahu Shetiru, Eloheinu, Lefan Yechai, Torah Service.
183. We rise.
got you a Torah Techa, Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed.
These are the yortzites that we observe in our community this week. Louise Bash, Oscar David, Solomon Demner, Samuel Abraham Frankel, Miriam Friedenreich, David Jacob Kaplan, Tessie Klein, Dora Dorothy Crone, Dr. Martin Lowenthal, Elaine Morgan Roth, Benjamin Pertovsky, Lillian Regenbold. Yehi Zichram Baruch. May the memories be a source of blessing for us. Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 184. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shomrei Rabba, Yalmad, Yibrach, Yilutei, Yamlich Malutei, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayei, Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, V'yizman Kariv, V'yimru Amen, Yehei Shomrei Rabba, V'barav, Le'olam, Le'olam. Yitbarav, V'yishtabach, V'yitba'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shmei Nekudisha, V'yitol. Ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'yibru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru amen. So this is a special, special day, as we've said. And I want to ask now, in that sense of well-being, right, of shlamim that we heard about, that sense of well-being, expressing thanks to God, I'm going to ask the family to stand, right, in your places, it's okay. And let's hear the blessing that we recite at a particularly special and joyous occasion, the Shehechiyanu. So let's recite that together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechiyanu v'kiyamanu v'higaranu b'zman hazeh. You abound in blessings, eternal, our source of strength, majestic presence of the entire cosmos, who has sustained us, kept us alive, and brought us to this moment, to this day. Mazel tov. So now, guys, if you can both come over here for a second. Hold on a second. I want to just say a couple of words, and then we have some gifts to share with you. So, you did beautifully today, and it was great to see the whole process of preparing for today, and how you ended up sharing, collaborating, working together, and yet being very much individuals, each one of you in your own right. So it's really a pleasure and a privilege for me to witness that kind of process. Our Torah starts, the book of Genesis, is full of stories of siblings who don't get along. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. But the entire book, it's whatever other things it's got in it, it's chock full of stories of brothers especially, but also sisters and brothers and sisters who don't quite figure out how to get along. And it leads to all kinds of pain and trouble. We get down to Egypt because of, in a large measure, because of that kind of inability of siblings, brothers, to get along. When we get out of Egypt, when we celebrate the redemption, the salvation of God and our freedom, in no small measure it comes about because finally we get a family where the siblings get along. And we have two brothers and a sister, coincidence again, I don't know, who all work together instead of resenting and competing. And I know I'm painting a rosy picture, I know.
It's all true, it's all true.
And it's not by chance that that microcosm of cooperation and support and even love, that little microcosmic experience is the seedbed that makes it possible for the Jewish people to come into being. So it's not to be taken for granted. Hinei ma tov umana im shevet achim gam yachad. We have that famous song, Hinei ma tov, right? How good it is when two brothers or more can actually sit, dwell together without trouble. And image that we have there in that psalm is the two brothers Moses and Aaron. So this day has been produced by you and by all those who have helped you with a lot of effort and sacrifice. We've heard that word today. And it has paid off, and it's an inspiration to an entire community. Eventually, as you well know, you're not going to be necessarily living in such close proximity with each other. So what I would pray for you, and the blessing that I would like to give for you, is that these moments of cooperation and togetherness that you have enjoyed with each other, despite whatever other things go on, it's human, that those examples of living in peace and harmony together feed you for the rest of your lives. And wherever you may end up being, each in your own unique life and career and path in life, may you always feel that bond. May you always feel that redemptive force that comes from having a sibling who loves you and who you love and you can count on, despite everything else. Mazel. Very important. I can see this. You stay right there. It's like 500 things to take out.
I need long arms. That's so much better.
You got it?
Okay, we got it. That's one more. Got it all.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Well, congratulations, Mazel Tov. It's great to be back together for the first B'nai Mitzvah. And I do hope that you follow in the footsteps of both your parents, who are very active in the synagogue. And before I present you with some of the gifts from the shul, I'm going to call up some of our prior B'nai Mitzvah, Alex Lefkowitz and Liana Farbiash, to present your certificates. I don't know which one you want.
Mazel tov. You guys did a fantastic job, and it was so great to watch you guys lead. And so on behalf of the B'nai Mitzvah class, we want to offer you guys certificates on becoming B'nai Mitzvahs.
Make sure you get the right one.
So, Mazel Tov, you did a great job.
You guys
Welcome to
did
Jewish
great.
adulthood.
Yeah.
Mazel tov.
Should I open this now? No, you don't have to open it now. And an Ace Chaim for each of you, and Jonah. Shai, this is from Camp Ramah. They sent you your own sidurs. So we'll go on and so again, Mazel Tov. And the Feldman family invites everyone to Kaddish right afterwards, so we'll have to move out and then back in, give the folks a few minutes to set up. And just two real quick announcements since it's late today. Sunday Minyan tomorrow at 9 a.m. We're beginning again. And then Wednesday evening is Purim, so hopefully everyone will come. There's a whole list of You haven't any wine in the Kaddish cup yet. So again, Mazel Tov to the entire Feldman family and all of their guests. And
So we're going to have to do some logistical adjusting here, because this is where the Kiddush is going to take place. We're going to make Kiddush right now, where everybody is present and accounted for. And then everyone is going to have to help by bringing all of the prayer books and chumashim and taking them out into the gallery, putting them on the appropriate places over there. and the crew that is working here and that's been so beautifully cooperative with us. Thank you so much for doing your work in a considerate way. They're going to have to turn this whole room around to make it possible for us to enjoy ourselves in the Kiddush. So we appreciate your patience by waiting out there. But first, we're going to make Kiddush. So you know what? Come on, guys. You're going to come over here. Family can stand around here also. Okay, by popular demand, we'll do a donut. All right, I forgot it. Yeah. Donut love, come on. I heard about the fact that it was getting late.
You're hungry.
Yeah. 187.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yitzir Nivra V'Yei Nasa V'Chesto Kol Azayin Elech Shemo Nikra Azayin Elech Shemo Nikra V'Yacharei Kiblot HaKol V'Le'ato Kiblot Torah Vehu Haya Vehu Ohev Vehu Yiyeh B'Tivara Vehu Yiyeh B'Tivara Vehu Echad V'Yein Sheni V'Ham Shiloh V'Ham Pirah V'Li Reshit V'Li Tachlit V'Lo Ha'oz V'Ham Yisrael V'Lo Ha'oz V'Ham Yisrael V'Hu V'Li V'Hayoti V'Tzur V'Li V'Yitzchak V'Hu Nisi U'Hanosi V'Nat Kosi V'Yom Ekra V'Nat Kosi V'Yom Ekra V'Yadato Achiruki V'Yetisha V'Yahira V'Yibruchi V'Yati Adonai li V'lo Yira Adonai li V'lo Yira.
Over here, guys.
את השבת, עזוב את השבת, דורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל, הולכי לעולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל, הולכי לעולם, ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. על כן בירך אדוני יום השבת ויקדשהו סברי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי וקפה. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Mazel tov!
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh yeah. It's shy. It's shy. So that's fine.
Allá, ¿a dónde viene aquí? El cilindro grande, todo el que iba ahí.
Déjame ver la comida.
Pita bread, pita bread.
What time is it now?
Your box?
Cut the pita bread. Thanks a lot.